Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for coming. I realized this is the last session of a very long conference, so I appreciate everyone turning up. Thanks a lot. If you don't know me, my name is David, and I work as a backend developer for Mastodon GmbH, which is the non-profit company here in Germany that oversees the development of the Mastodon software. And a very, very long time ago, I actually studied right here at this university. And in fact, I was on a team of people who came up with a very crazy idea of organizing an open source conference here. You might have heard of it. It's called, I think it's called FrOSCon. Thanks a lot. I would like to talk about Mastodon and the Fediverse today. But before I start, I'd like to, I have a couple of questions for you. Please raise your hand. Is there anyone who doesn't know about Mastodon or the Fediverse? Well, 1.5 hands. Okay. I'm very sorry this talk is not for you, but I hope you get something out of it anyway. Everyone else here seems to be familiar with Mastodon, so please raise your hand if you have tried Mastodon or any other Fediverse software, but then left. You stopped using it at one point. Okay, so 5 to 6, maybe 7 people. This talk is actually for you. You are the ones that I made this talk for. I think there's something in it for everyone else as well, but those people who just raised their hands, this is mostly for you. I'd like to talk very quickly about what the Fediverse actually is and what problems it possibly solves. But mostly I want to talk about the things that happened in and around Mastodon for the past year or so. Because many people have actually left. We've seen a large influx of users around 2022 when Elon Musk bought Twitter. But since then, a lot of people have stayed, but some have actually left. And they had very good reasons, and we need to take those reasons seriously. But at the same time, I think they are missing out. And I want to talk about those things that you might be missing out on. I will talk a lot about Mastodon, not because I think it's the only or the most important Fediverse software, but because that's the one that I am most familiar with. But at the end of the talk, I will also mention a couple of other projects. And if I could convince you to maybe give the Fediverse a second chance, then I have a couple of tips at the end to get you started or restarted. I have a feeling here at FrOSCon I'll be preaching to the choir, so I keep this very, very quick. My dear colleague Andy mentioned some of those things in his keynote today already. But just to quickly reiterate, the problem with social media that we have today, those centralized for-profit platforms, mostly US-based companies, is that their revenue model is selling ads. And to sell ads efficiently and make the most money out of it, they have to keep their users engaged. And the thing that they came up with to drive user engagement is practically endless feeds, algorithmic feeds that they put in front of you, and you can scroll all day if you want to. These feeds have proven to be very addictive. They actually mess with people's brains. It can be proven that they reduce attention span and mess with your brain in other ways. And they lead to polarization. And this is actually quite a mild term I put on here. Many people believe that they actually actively harm our democratic free societies. There's privacy issues, and those are the ones that land in the press most of the time, because to sell ads efficiently, they need to create detailed profiles of the users so they gather all the data they can get. And they are not always the best to keep this data safe. And since we are at a free and open source software conference, all these platforms run on closed source software. So you as a user have no way to inspect the source code, see how these algorithms work, help improve the software, or host your own server. It's just not possible. The Fediverse offers a real alternative. The Fediverse, for those not familiar with it, it's a network of different platforms. Sometimes very different platforms. We have microblogging platforms, we have video hosting platforms, photo sharing apps, and so on and so forth. And they can all interact using this shared protocol that's called ActivityPub. And on the Fediverse, we like to say we don't have those algorithms. It's actually not entirely true. Some people, they are experimenting with putting algorithmic feeds on the Fediverse, but these are always opt-in and open, so you can inspect them and see how they work. There is no centralization. The Fediverse, and that's where the name comes from, is federated. There's no single entity that could shut it down tomorrow, for example. It's just not possible. In general, we offer more privacy because we only collect the data we actually need to run the service and no more. We are also very eager to respect consent whenever possible. So we try not to work for advertisers. We work for our users, and we like to put our users in control. Given that there are so many different Fediverse projects, you have the choice. You can choose what platform you want to use. And if you've chosen a platform, you can choose a server you'd like to use. You have different clients to choose from. So there's a lot of choice involved. Not always a good thing, but we all know in the end, it actually is. And it all runs on open source software. So you can inspect the code, you can see how it works, you can help us improve the software, and you can self-host if you want to. The Fediverse is not perfect though. I'm not going to stand here and say everything is fine. In fact, there's a couple of problems, and I've chosen just a few of them here, but those are ones that we hear a lot about. The first one is that the onboarding can be quite complex. Those commercial centralized platforms, they have really nailed onboarding. They depend on the fact that new users join all of the time, so they made it as frictionless as humanly possible. You download an app, you press 2 buttons, you're in, that's it. We cannot do this. And one of the reasons is the choice I just mentioned. You have to decide on what platform to use, what server to use, and so on. We can't make it as easy, but we're trying, of course, to make it as easy as possible. Another problem people sometimes say is that the Fediverse is silent. And what they mean by that is that they do not see the kinds of interactions that they are expecting. For example, if someone posts a question and you look at that post, you expect to see answers, but sometimes you don't. You just don't, even though they should be there. And most of the time they are there. It's just that your server, the server you are using, doesn't know about them. And this is a side effect of the federation that I mentioned. Your server can only show you things that it knows about, and it doesn't always know all the things. And a similar problem is that you cannot, or sometimes you cannot find what you're looking for. You're looking for people, for accounts to follow. You're looking for interesting content, and you cannot find it. And again, most of the time, that's because your server, the one server that you are using, simply doesn't know it. And the last one is that people sometimes report weird interactions on the Fediverse. And I think this is mostly a social problem, and it's not only on the Fediverse, but sometimes there's actually a technical reason for it. And you remember I just mentioned missing replies. And if people cannot see replies, they are prone to repeat the same answers over and over again. And that's what people asking questions often experience. They get the same answer over and over again. And if you do not know why this is happening, this can actually freak you out. So this is a kind of weird interaction that we actually can fix. So, as I said, I'd like to talk a bit about Mastodon. It's the project and the company that I'm working for. And a lot has been going on in Mastodon land in the past couple of years. And in the last year especially. The biggest news, before I start, for those who don't know, Mastodon is a microblogging platform. It was originally developed to mimic Twitter to a degree. And it's one of the earliest platforms that use this ActivityPub protocol. So it has become the largest platform on the Fediverse. It's by far not the only one, but it is the largest one. And we also host the single largest Fediverse server with our flagship server, Mastodon.social. Our software is open source, and for Mastodon itself, we use the AGPL license. And we are currently a non-profit company here in Germany, a GmbH. And the biggest news by far is not even technical. It's the fact that we want to change this structure, want to move away from this non-profit company. And there's two reasons for that. The first one being that non-profits in Germany have a hard time, especially if they do software development. In fact, we ran into this problem, and this non-profit status has been revoked. And the other reasons, even more important, while being a non-profit is a good first step, it still means that everything belongs to a single person in the end, the owner of that non-profit company. And today this is Eugene Roetzel, the founder of Mastodon, and he decided to give up this ownership, to no longer have the project depend on him as a single point of failure. So what we're trying to achieve is become a non-profit that will be a non-profit even in 10 years or 20 years' time, to make it absolutely clear that Mastodon is not and will never be for sale. And to borrow a term that our distinguished competition has coined, we want to make Mastodon billionaire-proof. And we're quite serious about that. For those following along, you might have read about this back in January. So a long time has passed, and you might wonder if nothing has happened here. Let me assure you, a lot of things have happened, but it turns out it's a lot more complicated than we had originally thought. We needed to involve lawyers and tax accountants and so on to get this going. I hear that we will have something to announce quite soon, but I cannot promise any date here. The other non-technical news is that we've grown the team a lot. I joined about a year ago, and I was only the second full-time engineer on the team. And since then, we've grown by many people. Actually, it's not really easy to pinpoint an exact number, but only in the web engineering team, we had 3 new full-time people join in the past couple of months. 2 front-end engineers and 1 full-time designer. That means we have to figure out how to collaborate and how to collaborate efficiently. We're still doing that, but we are very eager to find out how we can use those new resources to not only collaborate, but also to ship faster. So once we figured this out, give us a little time here, but once we figure this out, expect us to ship more and faster in the future. But we also have shipped in the past year. We released 2 new versions, 4.3 and 4.4, which included a lot of changes all over the place. I just picked a couple here that are user-facing. For example, we improved onboarding a lot. I talked about this earlier. We cannot make it 100% as frictionless as the centralized platforms can, but as far as we can make it simple, we've done a lot to make it really, really easy. It's just a 3-step process now, and it used to be a lot more than that. For those who ever had a post go viral, you might know that Mastodon used to torture you in these cases because you would get so many notifications, it wasn't fun anymore. We finally can group those so you don't get a notification every single time someone likes your post. New feature in 4.4 that many will not have seen yet is that we can now display quote posts, and I'll be talking about this in a minute. And we've made many, many changes to the web interface over this past year, many tiny paper cuts that we fixed. So if you used the Mastodon web interface, let's say a year or 2 ago, please give it another try. It has improved by a lot. And of course, there's also our official mobile apps. And while Our Android app has always been quite good, I think. The iOS app used to be a bit lacking. But fortunately, we were able to hire a full-time iOS engineer last year, my dear colleague Shannon, who has been chipping away at all those tiny problems. And if you gave the iOS app a try over a year ago, please have another look. It's gotten really good. Oh, and we're finally in the place where we can ship new features on all 3 platforms simultaneously. I talked about choice. You don't have to use our official apps. There are many, many good third-party clients that you can choose from. I only picked a couple of here, like Ivory for iOS or Tusky for Android. And you even have alternative web front ends if you want to. And I have a screenshot here, which is from a very nice one called FanPy. FanPy is doing a lot of innovation on the user interface side. And actually, when we develop new features today, we always have a look at, how does FanPy solve this? Because they have some very cool ideas. So that's new stuff that happened in the last year, but of course, we're not standing still. We're currently working on a lot of exciting things. And the big one certainly is quote posts. Quote posts is the most asked for feature in Mastodon by far. And we've taken a lot of time to actually implement that because we didn't only want to do quote posts for the sake of it, but we are also very much aware of problems that people have with quote posts. Some don't want to be quoted at all. Some want to have control over who quotes them, and we will offer all of that. So this is something we are actively working on, and that will be in the next version, 4.5. And while I cannot tell you a date, I can tell you that we got grant money to do this, so we have a fixed deadline for this, and we will deliver this year. Oh, thank you. Another interesting thing we've just more or less finished is fetch all replies. This was originally a pull request that was sent to us by a first-time contributor. And this solves the problem that I talked about earlier, the missing replies. The code that was contributed helps by looking at the original parent post in a thread to get all those missing replies. And what was lacking was a user interface for that, but we finally have something in place. And you can actually see this today on mastodon.social. If you've been on mastodon.social, you might have noticed that when you're looking at a post, there sometimes a little spinner pops up, or you might even get a button that says you can refresh to get more replies. And this will be shipping in 4.5, so it's available to everyone. It's not perfect because fetching all those replies may take a while. If we need to get them from many different servers, it might not be immediate to see all of them, but they will be there after a while. So this situation is improved by a lot. This is a project that I have been working on. It's called Fediscovery, and we also got a grant to build a prototype for that. And the main idea that this is based on is that Fediverse servers today already use a lot of service providers. We have storage providers, we have providers for transactional email, and so on. Why not have dedicated service providers that solve problems that are specific to the Fediverse? So we have these ideas of having service providers for the Fediverse, and our first proof of concept tries to solve the discovery problem. We've developed a search provider that you can hook into your Mastodon server, or actually any Fediverse server, and you can, for example, receive trending content, you can search for accounts, and so on. And as soon as 2 or more servers pool their resources and use the same discovery provider, this provider is able to see more content, more accounts, and so on, than any single server ever could. It's not quite there yet. We haven't finished this. This code for this is in Mastodon today, but it's behind a feature flag. Do not expect anything to happen here in 4.5, but we are aiming to have this ready for probably 4.6. Another thing we're working on that's very exciting is starter packs. Starter packs is a feature that was pioneered by Blue Sky and has helped them a lot with the onboarding problem. Starter packs is basically a way for people to make lists of accounts that they would like you to follow. Those can be grouped by interest, by popularity, or whatever. Well, you have a follow all button and you can just say, hey, I want to follow all those people. So when you join as a new user, you already have a couple of recommendations who to follow. And this is both simple and very popular. It's simple for some platforms. Turns out it's not so simple on the Fediverse because we want this to be federated as well. So we are taking our time with this. But there was a lot of interest in having this on the Fediverse about a year ago, and many different initiatives kind of fizzled out. They didn't lead anywhere. We have decided to actually build this and start from the protocol and go all the way to the user interface. And we want to ship this in 4.6. There's another grant we're working on, which has this weird title, Institutional Features. And in fact, this includes a lot of very, very different features. But the background here is that we have been hosting a Mastodon server for the European Commission for about a year now. So we've learned a lot about the needs of those kinds of institutions. And it turns out a vanilla Mastodon install is not ideal for them. There's tiny things, like they want to be able to disable the federated timeline. Why would you see random posts from the Fediverse on a page hosted by the European Commission? It doesn't make much sense. They also would like to have things like a custom homepage, for example, and other customization features that other people have asked for a long time, and we're finally doing that. And again, since we have a grant for this, we have a deadline, so expect many of those tiny little things to seep into 4.5 and 4.6 over the next coming months. We have a couple of things where I don't have a timeline yet, but they are still happening right now. And one of them is very important, I think. It's donation campaigns. We've been running a small experiment in our official apps where we displayed a small banner to users of our platform asking to donate. I've said it a couple of times now, we are a non-profit, so we rely on donations. We need them, and we thought it would be fine to ask in a very non-intrusive way every once in a while. It has worked well for other non-profits, but we don't want to stop there. This is not only to fund Mastodon itself. We want to open this to every Mastodon server administrator. There's so many server administrators out there that do a fantastic job. But they also need to they also need to be able to pay their bills because hosting costs money. And I don't want to even speak about all the free work that they are putting into there. So we want to open this to all the Mastodon server operators as well. And I just talked about this service provider idea, having specific service providers that solve Fediverse problems. We use discovery as a proof of concept, but now that we want to do a lot more. We have written a grant application for a deduplicated storage provider. Today, every Mastodon server keeps its own copy of images and videos and so on that were shared across the Fediverse. And this is really wasteful. And for the larger instances, it's also very expensive. So it might make sense to have a service provider that can deduplicate this and make it much more cheap. So this is something we might be working on later this year. I think the decision will be made around November, if this gets accepted or not. By the way, if it doesn't get accepted, we might still do this just a bit later. There's people working on spam fighting providers, and there's a couple of other ideas also in the trust and safety area that we've been pondering. I just mentioned we hired new front-end developers and a full-time designer. So once they get into full swing, expect a lot to happen on the UI and UX front. So that was all I had to say about Mastodon. I promised I'd not only speak about Mastodon, but because there are so many interesting Fediverse projects out there. Actually, there's many more than I am even aware of. So I just picked a couple of things that came across my desk and that I found interesting here. And the first one is long-form content. We used to call this blogging. There's many platforms out there that allow you to have a blog and publish articles and so on. And the first one I've mentioned here, Write Freely, is actually a very nice one. It's an open source blogging app that's quite minimalistic, but also beautiful. Actually, you should give it a try. And this has been federating with ActivityPub for a long, long time now. But the exciting new development is that the others have caught on, even the big ones. Like WordPress is working on an official ActivityPub plugin that's actually become quite good in the past year or so. It's developed right here in Germany, by the way. And if you are blogging with WordPress, you can federate your blog posts on the whole Fediverse. It's pretty exciting. But what's most exciting to me is actually this other project here, Ghost. It started out as a blog engine as well, but it's grown to be more than that. It's a publishing platform that, for example, also lets you publish paid newsletters. This has become a trend in the past couple of years. Everyone has their paid newsletter nowadays. And if you want to host this with open source software, you should definitely give Ghost a try. And they only, I think, 2 weeks ago, released a new version, version 6, which includes Fediverse support, ActivityPub Federation. And the interesting thing they did is they said, well, once you're able to federate your articles, we don't want you to stop there. Because once you are on the Fediverse, you might want to interact with it more. So they've built the second interface, a notes interface, that lets you make tiny posts in microblogging style. This looks almost like Twitter or Mastodon. And they've built this right into Ghost alongside the long-form content stuff. Pretty exciting and also actually quite beautiful. You might be familiar with PixelFed. PixelFed is an Instagram-like photo sharing application that's on the Fediverse, and it's mostly run by a single developer, and he's also working on a second project called Loops. Loops isn't quite ready yet, but it's supposed to become the TikTok of the Fediverse. And the most exciting development there, to me, is not technical, but another thing, they had a very successful crowdfunding campaign earlier this year. And I like this because it shows that other projects on the Fediverse are looking to become financially sustainable. And this money can actually help them to also grow their team. And I think this is important. Another category of software products where I hadn't expected ActivityPub to play a role is forums. But there's a couple of projects that are actually quite active in that regard. And there's those classic forum engines like Discourse and NodeBB, both open source, web-based forum engines. And they are working together with some other projects that you might call link aggregators. So they are a bit like Reddit, for example. They're called Mbin and Lemmy, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one. But these are all working together, collaborating together, because they found that they can also, under the hood, they work quite similarly, and they can also make use of federation. They can also make use of ActivityPub. And it's gotten so far that we can already see some interoperability there. The first time I saw a post made from NodeBB on a discourse forum, it blew my mind. I hadn't expected that at all. And another interesting development here is they also have this problem with the missing replies. And it's even more important to them to always have all those replies. Because if you're in a forum thread and somewhere in this long chain there's a reply missing, it breaks everything. So they've also been working on this problem, and they came up with a separate solution to ours. They like to call it context backfill, for example. And this gives us another way to solve this problem. And in fact, the two solutions that we now have will work together quite nicely. So we might get support for this in Mastodon one day. Might be even quite soon. I'm not sure. But when we do, this problem will be solved forever. If you've been around yesterday, you might have caught a talk about FrOSCon. FrOSCon is a GitHub-like system, a Git hosting and project management platform, and they have discovered that they would also like to make use of ActivityPub. These days, everyone is on GitHub because everyone else is. And this problem is quite similar to the one that we are facing with centralized social media. So the solution could be quite similar. And they are looking at federating not only FrOSCon but also other projects using ActivityPub plus a custom extension that will allow federated pull requests, issues, and so on. They are working on this quite slowly. They actually can use a lot of help, but I'm super excited for this because I think we really need this to collaborate effectively without having one centralized platform that could shut down tomorrow. All of those things I just mentioned, or most of the things I mentioned, are user-facing projects. I want to mention one developer-faced project, which I am personally very excited about. It's called Fediverse, and it's a JavaScript or TypeScript framework to develop ActivityPub-based applications with. So if you want to start a project that uses ActivityPub and you like to do this in TypeScript or JavaScript, please have a look at Fediverse. But it doesn't stop there. They also have a command line interface, and this is super helpful because you can use this to debug ActivityPub things. You can make requests to fetch actors or other objects, test out HTTP signatures, and so on and so forth. It's quickly ramping up to be the Swiss Army knife of ActivityPub development. And we didn't have something like this a couple of years back. That's really exciting. So, if some of the things that I've shown you today made you reconsider and you want to join or rejoin the Fediverse, I have a couple of tips for you. First of all, the problem many people have when joining is actually the choice I mentioned. For example, you have to decide on a server to use. And there's a lot of servers out there, so I realize this can be a problem. But in my opinion, you generally will fall into one of two camps. And the first camp is people that just don't care. I want to join this platform. I don't want to think about servers. I just want to choose one and be done with it. And if you fall into that camp, the recommendation is pretty simple. Just use the flagship server. The Mastodon.social, the pixelfed.social, and basically every Fediverse project will have one or a handful of flagship instances that you can choose from. And the reason they exist is exactly to make it very easy to join. So if you don't care, just use the flagship server. And by the way, you can move later if you decide to do so. If you're in the second camp, then you actually want to take time and compare different servers and make an informed decision. And if that's the case, then I don't think this is a problem. This is something you actually like to do. So it's less of a burden. But if you fall in that camp, I'd still have a recommendation. And there's actually many things to look out for when you're looking for a server. But I would like you to consider its sustainability. I've mentioned before, there's many Fediverse admins out there that's essentially provide free labor and do this in their spare time, and many of them are slowly burning out, both financially and mentally. It can be a burden if you're a single person. So if you plan to join a server that's run by a single person, you should be prepared to help out in any way you can. Or you could choose a different kind of server that already has a plan in place to make this sustainable long time. And there's many different approaches here. Some rely on donations, for example. Some let you pay a monthly fee, which I think is great. And others are even experimenting with things like cooperatives, where you also pay a monthly or yearly fee, but you also become an owner of the thing, of the organization. And I think all of them are very interesting. So please have a look. If you take your time to choose a server, look how they plan to be sustainable, how they plan to be around in a year's, in 5 years or 10 years' time. Once you join, the first problem you will face is finding someone to follow. And this is actually a big one. First of all, if you are on a very large server, the problem is much less severe. Please just use the tools that are there. The search and discovery tools we have in Mastodon, for example, are actually quite good, as long as you are on a large server. The problem is quite more severe when you're on a small server. And in that case, I would encourage you to have a look at the larger servers. You can use many of those tools. Look at what's trending, search for accounts, and so on. Look at hashtags. You can do all of this without having an account. So feel free to go onto mastodon.social without signing up. Just have a look around and find people and content that you think is interesting. And please make use of hashtags. People like to use hashtags on the Fediverse, and you will find hashtags for many different interests that you might have. You can even follow hashtags on Mastodon, but I'm a bit hesitant to recommend this because some of them can be high traffic and you will get too much content. But you can always look at what people are posting under those hashtags. And if you have a couple of things like, for example, this weekend, this one here is quite active, and I love to see it, you will find many interesting people to follow. By the way, I have another tip right at the end that is also about this. But before that, I would like to tell you that you can always block users, and please do so liberally. I think some people don't know that you can block individual users on Mastodon, but I believe that most people are wary of this because they find it kind of rude. And I would say don't bother with this. Remember, on the Fediverse, you are in control of your social media experience. So if you have interactions with other people that make you uncomfortable, don't waste your time on this. Our time on this planet is short. Don't waste it on people that make you feel unwell. Simply block them and be done with it. And the last and the most important point, if you can, bring other people. I mean, every single person joining the Fediverse is a big win for us. And I don't want to put any pressure on you, so don't take this too seriously. But if you can, if you're in a position to convince your friends, your family, your coworkers, your fellow members of your Linux user group, the people in your open source project that you are collaborating with, if you can convince a group of people to make the switch at the same time, to leave whatever platform you're on today and join the Fediverse, this can have a huge impact. It has been proven over and over again that these kinds of network effects are larger than just this one group joining. There's, in many cases, there's almost like magnetism. Other people will follow when they see that a whole group has made the jump. And also, if you bring your friends, you already have people to follow. Your feed will not be empty. You already know who you're going to follow and what you expect to see. So your onboarding will be made simpler as well. Again, every single person joining is good, but if you can, again, no pressure, no, but if you can, please bring your friends. All right, that was it. Thank you so much for having me and for listening to me. And we still have time for questions, but before I answer any questions, we have a little time left, but I think FrOSCon people and video people will be very eager to tear down everything here. So once we're finished, please don't hesitate to approach me outside. In fact, please do, because I have stickers. But again, we still have a little time. Oh, the microphone's over there, it's coming. To whom?
Yeah, so don't you think that the entire kind of default server is a bit of a flaw in the system of a decentralized service? Like Mastodon gives you a weird choice. Either you go to the same server that everyone else, or you have to choose your community up front, and that's kind of weird. Right, like on Reddit, you first create an account and then you decide, I want to talk about cats. You don't start by joining the cat server and then figure out what to do with that. So that's always seemed to me a bit weird about Mastodon. It kind of forces you to make a choice up front. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I think the important thing to note here is that you can always move. You can move your account to a different server later on if you want that. It's not without problems. Like, you can move your account, but you cannot move your content. Because in fact that would be weird. Are those moved posts new ones? Should we notify everyone about them? Do we need redirects for every single post that you ever made? And so on and so forth. So you cannot move your content, but you can move your account, and you will take all your followers with you. So the thing we recommend is, if you don't want to choose up front, just use the flagship instance. And if you don't like it for any reason, or you find something that you think is better, then move there later on.
Hello. So I find these questions about development of Fediverse tools very kind of unique, because you're not just solving technical problems, but you're also solving social problems. So you gave this example of with quote tweets and how you deal with those and how you set permissions and things like that. So I kind of wonder how you actually make these decisions behind the scenes. Like, for example, how you set the default permissions. Is this something you consult with sort of sociology experts on, or is it something you develop more in terms of just, I don't know, vibe or whatever?
I don't think we have sociology experts that we can consult with, at least not on a regular basis. We are in contact with many different people. And I think the thing that's helping us at Mastodon, I cannot speak for other Fedi projects, but the thing that's helping us at Mastodon is that we got our first larger influx of users when Twitter was a really bad place around 2017 or something. So many people from marginalized communities joined Mastodon, and they were wary, and they had issues with traditional social media, and they sort of sought refuge at Mastodon. And I think from that point on, our trust and safety features, our moderation tools, and they can still be better, but they have improved since then all of the time, and we are very aware of those problems. So we actually have experts for user experience, and one of the new colleagues I mentioned actually worked on trust and safety at one of those centralized platforms. So yeah, we are very aware of those problems, and we have experts who actually know a bit about this, yes.
Thank you.
So the classic use of ActivityPub is mostly not time-critical things like forums or blogs or some and comments for that. but I got to know that there is a sub-app, instant messaging apps that's currently developed based on ActivityPub. Do you see that ActivityPub is fit for like time-critical replies like this, or do you see a problem there?
I don't see a problem per se. In fact, you are correct. If it was really time critical, like if you need any guarantees that a message will reach its recipient in a given time, you will never get this on the Fediverse. But if you've used Mastodon for a time, you realize that most posts reach you very quickly. I don't have any numbers here, but the average post will reach you quite quickly.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear about the new features. I'm especially excited about the quoting part and the starter packs, because that makes the Fediverse, at least for me, much more fun. Yeah, to take the rebel out of it. And what I'm also looking into is at some point to have choice of algorithms, because a chronological timeline is not always suitable to for every of my moods. Let's put it this way. Yeah. But I don't know if there's any efforts in the community somewhere of it will be only client-based, that there will be algorithms to, let's say, steer a little bit the timeline.
Well, the only thing I can tell you is that we are not currently working on this at Mastodon. I am aware of other people working on this, but I haven't actually looked into it. So I don't know the state of their projects or what you can actually do with it today. But people are working on this.
Hi. Establishing Mastodon is always, or a social media platform is kind of like a chicken and egg problem. Like you want users to join, but users want public people or something to post there. And I'm wondering, like, how did you help big players to move to your platform? Like, were there any, did you approach them, or was it the other way around? How can you accelerate this process?
For example, I don't think we have a recipe for that, not yet, at least. I'm aware of several different cases where it's been all over the board. So we have people who joined the Fediverse using Mastodon all on their own, never consulted with us or anything. We are talking to institutions who want to be on the Fediverse. As I said, we're hosting a server for the European Commission, for example, and we will probably help other institutions, for example, city councils and so on, to join the Fediverse. This is something that we are actively working on. And sometimes they approach us, sometimes we approach them. We try to do as much outreach as we can, but we are still a very small team, so we can only do so much.
And are they working with bridges, or do you know that?
Bridges to where?
Like, how do they, maintaining an account and also even a server at Mastodon is probably work. And I'm wondering, like, how difficult is it made for them to do that? Like, for example, because I'm not so much of a social media person, but in general, like, you have tools to just enter your content into one tool and then feed it out to the world on whatever platform is there. Like, are German councils or whatever using that? Do you know that, or?
I actually have no idea. There are apps to cross-post to many different social media platforms, and I know that some of them support Mastodon and others don't, but I'm not an expert on that topic, no.
Okay, thank you.
With regard to moving your account to a different server, a lot of people have spoken about how self-sovereign identity can help with that. Is self-sovereign identity something you expect to see in Mastodon soon?
Not soon, no. But that's actually a quite interesting topic that I think many people on the Fediverse are working on. It's been moving slowly, so don't expect anything in Mastodon. anytime soon. But again, the answer here is people are working on this, people are aware of this, and there's many different interesting approaches. I don't have any idea of the state of things, though.
Der war zuerst.
Wer war zuerst?
Die Dame ist schon lange anmeldet.
Oh, okay. Sorry for my bad English. I got a question. As you mentioned that you found a solution for the pre-posting. I don't know how it really should talk. And that also Lemmy and other communities found another solution for this problem. So is this maybe a way that you are, or are you in kind of an exchange during these Fediverse social platforms, so that you work on one problem together? You're planning something like this?
Yes, there's always a lot of collaboration going on, and it's actually quite hard. There's so many projects out there, and so many people in different time zones and with different interests and so on. I know collaboration has not been good historically because many different, very small projects, but especially since we are growing and others are growing at the same time, this has ramped up a lot, and also there's organizations out there that want to help with that. Yes, we actually try to collaborate as much as possible. It doesn't always work out in the way we hope, but yes, we are very open, and others are too, and we are in contact with all the projects that I mentioned today.
Thank you very much. I'm from Switzerland, and we have a small non-profit association where we engage for sustainable IT since a long time, and we started our own Mastodon server just right ago. And want to promote the Fediverse and Mastodon a little more in Switzerland, because Switzerland is still quite not many people and groups there, and I would be very interested to get in contact what you are doing with the institutions, because we have in November we have in Switzerland the DINACON. It's a conference on sustainable IT. And I will have a lecture on using making public institutions like towns and communities have their own Mastodon or their own Fediverse server for the institution itself, but also for the people of the town. And if you have some experience in Germany or in other countries, would be very interesting to hear about.
Yes. Thank you very much, by the way. This is brilliant. That's excellent work that you're doing. Thank you.
And there's another question. It's more a principal question or a question of naming. The Fediverse has taken the word of followers and following just from the centralized social media platforms. And for me, we are thinking about how to have another word for that, because following is not a very democratic concept, and it goes like following a leader and so on. You have this in mind, and maybe one day we could find for the Fediverse different wording for for this.
Interesting thought. Thank you.
I have a question for the imagination, and I wonder myself what would happen. We have Meta founding Threads with 400 million active users in the last week, what I heard. And they also opened up a little bit to federation, at least in the US and in Canada. Accounts can open up to federation, and I can follow Barack Obama on Threads with my Mastodon account on Bond Social. Now, I imagine what would happen if Meta decides to federate everything they have tomorrow. Will my cache explode? And what else?
No, your cache will not explode because no one on your server is following all those people, because they cannot do so right now. So this will be a very slow explosion over time. But no, I don't think it would be a problem, because we already have many people on the Fediverse today. And unless everyone follows everyone else, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I assume if the Fediverse mostly spreads through mouse-to-mouse propaganda, and I was wondering, have you already done or considered classic format advertisement for Mastodon or something to spread the word around, to get normies to know what Mastodon is?
I don't think that we have. Not.
If somebody would like to give us lots of money, then we would be happy to do some advertising on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Yes. I was talking to excuse me. I was talking to somebody earlier from. Hello, sorry. I'm sorry to jump in with an answer, David. I'm Andy. I work at Mastodon on communications, and I was talking with another attendee earlier after my keynote on this exact topic, and it's a very simple economic situation. Advertising costs money. I think there are many of us in the Fediverse community, I talk about this broadly, not just Mastodon, that would love to do that kind of thing to broaden some awareness. There is a counterpoint to it that a lot of people in the Fediverse, David mentioned some of them, who have come from communities who have decided that the mainstream was not for them, and they've come to the Fediverse, may feel that they don't want a sudden massive influx of lots and lots of people, because it could change the culture very quickly. And I think we need to be respectful of that. But yeah, I mean, it's really an economic situation, in my opinion.
Thanks for the answer.
So, if that was it, once again, thank you very much. And don't forget to grab your stickers.